Do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep is most well known for its adaptation, Blade Runner, released in 1982, with its director being Ridley Scott, and also the sequel film, Blade Runner 2049, which, might I add, both these films are beautiful films in both cinematography and story, and I highly recommend checking them out if you haven't seen them before. This book did not just inspire this, but actually inspired all of this. Philip K. Dick published this book in 1966, and after publishing it, there was this whole new wave of dystopian post-apocalyptic sci-fi stories. I just rewatched the film Blade Runner after finishing this story, and I have to say, while Blade Runner the film emphasizes the cyberpunk aesthetic and the noir atmosphere, the novel is more concerned with the psychological inquiries, religious allegories, and the psychological effects of living in a world where reality is increasingly uncertain. And in all honesty, this different approach is what made Do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep so captivating to me. With this all being said, I was super excited to read this book for the very first time, along with the Tales and Tales book club, and here are all my first impressions of reading it. This is really cool. They have a box set of 1Q84 broken into volumes. I am a sucker for cat books.
Weird.
Little slides. $7.50? That's not bad.
I want the strawberry.
Today's a good day. So I need the one with the shirt, okay? I need it. And he's putting on the shirt!
Oh my god!
And he's gonna go right here. And my business guy is right there. I have to say, it is so hot out today, like crazy. I've burned through the first couple chapters. It's a pretty short book. Each of the chapters are very short. The world basically has been eradicated as we know it by this big world war, basically leading to the extinction of a ton of different animals, as well as a lot of people end up going off-world. This is not the case for our protagonist, who is Rick Deckard, and he works in the police department as a mercenary who basically gets rid of these androids that have become so real and lifelike to human that the only way you can tell the difference between them is through a empathy test. His sole purpose in this job is to retire androids, these Nexus 6 androids, which basically means to kill them. He's doing all of this for the sole purpose is he wants to make enough money to be able to buy a real animal. Real animals have kind of become this big commodity because they've pretty much all gone extinct and been taken over by these android animals, which are a lot cheaper. Even though they all look similar, there's something about him knowing that it's a real animal that he really, really wants. The person before him was supposed to kill these androids, but he finds out that he actually died on the job, so he's feeling a little bit weird about going and doing this job. So basically he's going to Seattle now to check out and test out his different methods that will tell him whether or not these Nexus 6 robots are androids or human. Little guy working out.
Oh.
And he's lifting weights!
Wait, I'm upset.
New one to the collection. This book so far has kind of just been our main character kind of going around and retiring a ton of the different robots, and we find out that one of the people who is housing him in Seattle actually is an android. And then now, kind of on his way back, he's been retiring a bunch of different robots, and the one that he's currently doing was at a opera house. And it was actually kind of funny. The robot actually calls the police and sends him to a police station, which actually turns out to be a fabricated police station. And at the police station, they kind of trick them and say, oh, you guys are androids too, kind of a thing. And then they take the test at the end and find out through the empathy test that they are still, in fact, human. We are now more than halfway through. With all of his big bounties, he decided to buy a goat with all the money.
You can feel that I am nearing the conclusion of the story. There has been these 3 robots that he has been told to eliminate that have all kind of grouped together because they found out that he defeated all of the last robots, and they're all kind of afraid that he's going to basically come after them. So he has called upon this other android, the android that he tried the test on in the original time he tried out the empathy test. He's basically eliminated all of these robots in the same day, so he's like extremely tired. He also gets a hotel room with the girl android. Interesting to say the least. The androids, also crazy enough, don't live that long. What did I just read? Those last like 10 pages changed everything. The android that he actually invited over the hotel, her whole sole purpose is to dissuade him from going and killing the final 3 robots. She's been doing this to a ton of the different bounty hunters that have been sent after them. They get in this kind of like little fight, and then basically he ends up leaving her and then going and killing the robots anyway. And then there's this bit where he basically goes through and kills all 3 of those robots. He calls his boss and he gets told, good job, you did the job. And he ends up going back to his house, and guess what? The goat has been pushed off the roof. He just got the goat. It's so sad. And I have officially finished the book. And that was interesting, to say the least. I definitely will be thinking about that for a minute. Yeah, he ends up going and staying in like Oregon. He kind of has this weird awakening, and he finds this toad, and he kind of thinks of himself as the prophet Mercer, which is like the religion of this book. And basically he comes back and he thinks the toad is real, so he's really excited about it. And then when he gets back, he finds out that it's an electric toad, and then the book just ends as he goes to sleep. So yeah, definitely interesting.
There are so many different things I could compare this book to, mainly because this is the origin to a lot of these ideas within sci-fi. While reading, I drew parallels from like Terminator, and I would say my oddest parallel was from Pluto, written by Urasawa. With this all being said, I would say the most engaging part of this book is the ideas that it revolutionizes. The book, as is the case for a lot of science fiction novels, is heavily rooted in social and political critiques of that era. Our main character Deckard, for instance, personal dream of owning a real animal underscores the book's commentary on materialism and authenticity in a world where the line between the artificial and the real are being blurred together. Ideals of empathy and morality and the impact of technology on human nature all explore and add to the depth of paranoia, altered state of consciousness, and the metaphysical question that the author poses. The characters themselves are just alright and aren't incredibly deep, but it is the atmosphere and the thoughts that to me make this book compelling. The most fascinating thing to me is how the book sets up empathy as humanity's defining trait. And this trait is what separates humanity from androids. In this world, empathy isn't just a virtue, but instead goes beyond that, with it being mirrored in their religious institutions and is even linked to social status. Having an animal, whether real or artificial, holds social weight, which having a higher class animal is directly connected with happiness in the society. And this is exemplified with Deckard's wife, really putting the flaws of the system on a pedestal. In a world where nearly all the species are extinct, people equate owning a live creature with moral status, along with its institutionalization through Mercer, which Mercer is the religious institution that is set in place in this book, and is directly related to the strange ending and conclusion of the novel. This flips the typical science fiction focus. Instead of just fearing machines, we begin to question the hollowness of human behavior in a mechanized world. There's also the inclusion of items such as empathy boxes that are very unique, and the whole idea behind them is sharing the suffering with their savior Mercer to the person using the box, which is also just a very interesting idea and takes the idea of pain and suffering and equates that to empathy and how it's inputted into the religious institutions. Our main character, Rick Deckard, is not your prototypical sci-fi heroine. He is not your clean-cut savior. And he instead kind of fits this idea of moral alienation, which goes directly against the ideas of empathy that this world has been trying to push. Raising the question, does raising an animal equate to empathy? His whole job is to eliminate another species, this being the android. And he's only doing this to achieve his own individualistic goal of gaining a higher class. And this to me is what adds to the cryptic ending and the eluded themes that come from it. You see him questioning this himself as he hunts androids. He's increasingly unsure whether he's holding justice or committing murder. The androids themselves often feel more alive than the humans in a lot of cases. This moral fog makes the book feel unsettling and reflects questions of authenticity and sanity. The ambiguous ending to the novel leaves the reader with a plethora of questions. Is anything that you just read real? Is everyone androids due to the radiation and are only alienating a certain kind of robot from Mars that lacks the ability to have empathy? That for me is what the toad emphasizes at the end of the book. It symbolizes this idea of telling yourself a different narrative, to find happiness in this moment even though Deckard knows it's artificial. This speculation is what I enjoyed most about this book. For me, this book wasn't one of those books that I just burned through. It used a lot of techniques that I'm sure were revolutionary for that time, but for me, it fell a little bit flat. For instance, the flow of the novel wasn't always there and incorporated the wandering thought, which worked at times, but at other times to me felt a little fragmented. Another critique I had is I found the subplot of the 3 robots hiding out after they found out that Deckard had killed all the other robots, and Isidori helps them to outwit Deckard. I don't know, I felt it was a little bit boring. Also, a fascinating detail is that in the original publication of this book, the year they used was 1992, and then in later editions, they changed it to 2021 to kind of fit along with the Blade Runner film. For me, it wasn't just the reading experience that makes this book so enjoyable, but its questioning of the world and its meaning after you finish every chapter. And thank you everybody who followed along with the Tales and Tales book club and reading this book. I hope everybody was able to enjoy it as much as I did, and I am super excited to announce the next book in the Tales and Tales book club series, and that is The Cat Who Saved Books. I've heard it is very cozy, and I think it kind of goes perfectly along with the weather becoming nicer outside. It could be a good outdoor picnic read book. And I don't know, I've just been really in the mood to read a super cozy Japanese book. Also, it's pretty short, so another short book. And if you want to partake in the Tales and Tales book club, the video on this book should be posted next month, so follow along.